Libra, I'm not going to BS you this month. It's going to be a tough one, especially when you take a look at this Mars and Saturn opposition that starts the month. That's a tough one because Mars is your relationship planet. I'm going to animate the chart so you can see how Saturn also is going to be impacting Venus, your ruler this month, as Venus here moves into this conjunction with Mars, your ruling planet and the planet ruling your relationships, in this opposition to Saturn, which really puts the brakes on everything. The typical meanings of this aspect, number one, Mars and Saturn, is frustration, anger, devitalizing effect on your body. And it's interesting because the Venus and Mars together usually indicate quite a hot, spicy, passionate transit. Then you've got that third factor, which is the opposition to Venus from Saturn, which cools down the affections and can generally separate you from the one that you love. Now, that may not be a physical separation, maybe, but it can and often is more of an emotional coolness while this transit is in place. Take a look up here at the moon, moving through these upper parts of your horoscope. Here we see that it's going to enter its new moon stage on the 10th here, and that's going to happen in your career sector. So just a digression now away from your relationships. There it is there. A very powerful new moon, which is also influenced by Pluto here in your fourth house. So that gives you an almost obsessive quality about the manner in which you're doing your work. I've got another couple of aspects here that I'd marked for you, given that I've mentioned the opposition to Saturn. There's a square to Uranus, really destabilizing your relationships around the 9th. Then we've got that on the 13th, which is the one you see coming up now, the Venus conjunction. There it is there. That's the peak of this passionate combination. That's happening in your 11th house of friendships, by the way. So I think while you may have a lot of desire and energy for your social activities, the placement of Saturn over here is going to put a damper on that and maybe shows additional responsibilities elsewhere in your life, such as children, such as maybe more mental types of work that you have to do, planning for your future, that sort of thing. The next big aspect that I've got in my list here for you, Libra, is the conjunction to Virgo, and that's happening on the 22nd. You'll see this planet here, your ruler, moving out of this 11th house. That's going to leave Mars here in the 11th house, but Venus, your ruler, in this quieter segment of the horoscope in the sign of Virgo, which is really its weakest sign. 12th house I normally predict is going to be a time where you pull back from your hyperactivities. But there's a qualification there, because you'll notice here Jupiter in your 6th house of work. Hello. Venus moving into the opposition there. Venus, Jupiter, in those hard aspects, usually indicate a great deal of work, maybe an excess of work, putting too much effort into other people. The 12th house is also a house of charitable acts, where you're giving of yourself. And that's coinciding with the full moon right here, just as it makes contact with Pluto again. There it is. A very powerful full moon in your 5th house near Saturn. So that's showing an abundance of emotional energy. It also rules your workplace activities. So when I said you're going to be excessively giving of yourself, it's quite likely this is going to be in the workplace area. You'll also notice there Mercury, which is the planet of higher education and learning, transiting up here in the upper part of your horoscope. A lot of new contacts being made, a lot of correspondence, meetings, negotiations, contracts, that sort of thing, can be part of the reason we see this Venus in the 12th opposing Jupiter and that full moon that we just mentioned a moment or two before. The moon also moves through that area around the 27th, 28th. That's the 6th house, which is your workplace and daily routine. Moves through the 7th house there, which is your closer relationships on the 29th and 30th. And I'm just trying to have a look here. That's right, the placement of Mercury moving into your 11th house as well. So there's sort of a toing and a froing there, I think, between your work and your social activities. And then we see Mars also moving into this 12th house just at the end of the month. So I'm going to put the stop there because we've gone over the 31st. A little bonus for Libra this month. So it's quite an interesting month for you. One last aspect I wanted to mention was that retrograde movement of Jupiter back out of that 6th house of work, where I think what that has to say is less workaholism, more creativity, this 5th house. The retrograde Jupiter is an important transit because it takes you back through some of the previous experiences, through some of the planning that you've been doing to maybe modify that during the retrograde phase so you get a better handle on things and can make better decisions when it moves forward in a few months from now. And we're going to be keeping our eye on that, and I'll be updating you on it month by month as it happens. Get on over there to astrology.com.au, subscribe here, drop me a note, get a reading, whatever it is you feel like doing. I'm here to facilitate that, and I'll be back next month. Looking forward to your company. Bye-bye.